Good day, everyone. So, today we got another video about language learning materials development. Question set number 2. So, today we will be answering three questions. Question number 1: evaluate language learning materials used in grade 7 to 12 using the principle in materials evaluation. Question number 2: examine the grade 7 to 12 English curriculum and cite materials used to facilitate mastery of a specific competency. Question number 3: list down specific competency from the grade 7 to 12 English curriculum and identify possible language learning materials used to be for this competency. But first, let's define material evaluation. Material evaluation is a procedure that involves measuring the value or potential value of a set of learning materials. It involves making judgments about the effect of the materials on the people using them, and it tries to measure of or all of the following list by Tomlinson 2013. So, for the question number 1, evaluate language learning materials used in grade 7 to 12 using the principle in materials evaluation. There are several factors that can affect the evaluation process. Number 1, teachers have many choices in selecting the materials, which they can differ the materials effectively by having a lot of choices means the needs for evaluation and selection is more than the limitation sources in materials. Number 2, selecting the course book is a challenge for a teacher because people think that materials are the main of the particular program. The course book can be a representation of the activity in the class. Selecting the course book by yourself or the following the course book from the ministry has each positive and negative side. The teacher who following the course book from the ministry will feel very limiting and probably need the additional materials for filling the particular context. Well, in this situation, the teacher itself might be the subject to be evaluated. So it will give the teacher insight to help them follow the evolution in the field, and it will help the teacher to focus on realistic ways of adapting the materials to a particular group of learners. There is no course book or materials to be perfect by Tomlinson 2013, 2003 rather said that it is because the needs, objectives, backgrounds, and preferred styles of the learners differ from the context to context. We need some models for tissue that covers the criteria of materials. In evaluating process, it can be examined by two evaluation. The first one is external evaluation. The aim is examining the organization of the materials as stated explicitly by the author or publisher by looking at the description or the claims made on the cover of the teachers or the students. Book and the introduction also table of contents that should enable the evaluator to assess. Example, an integrated skill series which is designed to offer flexibility with different teaching and learning styles, fun for learning to use and easy for teachers to adapt. Fully integrated grammar, skills, and lexical syllabuses provide a balanced learning experience. Engaging topics motivate students and offer greater personalization. A wide range of approaches exploits different learning styles. Clearly, structured grammar representations are reinforced with extensive practice. Contextualized vocabulary focuses on authentic real world language. A variety of listening and speaking activities develop learning fluency. Learner training throughout the student's book and workbook maximize skills development. Contextualized vocabulary focuses on authentic real world language. A variety of listening and speaking activity does develop learning fluency. Learning training throughout the student books and workbook maximize skills development. So the example means that the textbooks for intermediate level students with different learning styles and different levels of motivation, this textbook is designed for flexible use and offered an integrated learning experience covering grammar, lexics, and skills. From the example of description and introduction, we can conclude several points as follows. The intended audience, we need to ascertain who the materials are targeted, the proficiency levels, We need to decide the materials claimed to a particular level, such as beginner, intermediate, or lower. We need to decide the context in which the materials are to be used, such as general learners or ESP, and what degree of specialist subject knowledge is assumed and the materials. We need to see the author's view on the language and methodology and the relationship between the language, the learning process, and the learner. The other factors. Deciding the materials we use are the main core course or supplementary. Examining is a teacher's book in print and locally available. It is also worth considering whether it is sufficiently clear for non-native speaker teacher to use. Examining is there any vocabulary list or index in the textbook. The textbook should consist of the organization of the materials, give information about the vocabulary, study, skills to be covered, additional interactive digital material, and so on. An indication as to how much class time the author thinks should be devoted to a particular unit. This factor can be seen in the table of the contents. Examining is the visual material in the book, such as photographs, charts, and diagrams, integrated into the text. Examining are the layout and presentation clear or cluttered. Some textbooks are researched and written well, but are so cluttered with information on every page that teachers or the learners find them practically unusable. Examining is the material too culturally biased or specific. Examining are the materials represent minority groups or women in a negative way and present a balanced picture of particular country or society. Examining the cost of the inclusion of digital materials such as CD, DVD, interactive games, quizzes, and downloadable materials from the web and the essential of digital materials to ensure language acquisition and development. Examining the use of the learners of the inclusion of the tests in the teaching materials such as diagnostic, progress, and achievement. 2. The internal evaluation. The aim is to analyze the extent to which the aforementioned factors in the external evaluation stage match up with the internal consistency and organization of the materials as stated by the author or the publisher. The factors of internal evaluation. The presentation of the skills in the materials, the grading and sequencing of the materials. There is the way of appropriate text beyond the sentence in reading or discourse skills. The recordings are authentic or artificial in the listening skills. The speaking materials should incorporate what we know about the nature of the real interaction or over artificial dialogues, the relationship between tasks and exercises to learner needs, and what is taught by the course material. Um, the material should be suitable for different learning style, independent learning, and learner autonomy. The material should motivate both students and teachers. Some materials may seem attractive to the teacher but would not be motivating by the learners. 3. The overall evaluation. The factors to make an overall evaluation as to suitability of the materials rather as follows. The usability factor, the generalizability factor, the adaptability factor, and the flexibility factor. Why is the material evaluation important? Evaluating language teaching and learning material is really important in successful language teaching because it encourages us to be reflective practitioner. By Sean 1983 and actively reflect on what we need or want from materials, how they are used in practice and to what effect. Why do we evaluate materials? To identify the popular and successful feature of existing materials, which will help us to produce better materials, to choose suitable materials for language programs, to adapt the materials to make them better, suit the needs of the students and the needs of teaching, to identify how successful the material used in a classroom are, to examine whether the materials fulfill the prescribed course, To examine the extent to which materials permit students to achieve learning objectives, to identify whether the design of the materials are suitable for a task-based syllabus. Principle in materials evaluation. There are two principles in materials evaluation: effectiveness and efficiency. Effectiveness principle is a course book effective in meeting the needs of the learners. Compare what the learners knew and were able to do before they used the course book with what they know and are able to do after they use the book. Efficiency principle. Does the course book meet the needs of the learners more effectively than some alternative course book? Compare the learning gains evidence by using one course book with the gains evidence by another course book. How are we going to evaluate the materials evaluation? We can evaluate the material evaluation through four steps: defining criteria, subjective analysis, objective analysis, or the matching. Comparing subjective analysis and objective analysis. Subjective analysis or the materials requirements. The audience are who are the learners, which is the grade 7 to 12. What are the aims of the course? Example: A. Able to understand the tenses of the verbs. B. Identify what are the sentences in the tenses of the verbs. C. Construct their own sentence according to the rule of the tenses of verbs. While in objective analysis or materials evaluation, the audience is who is the material intended for, which is the grade 7 to 12. What is the aims? What are the aims of the material? Students understand the topic easily, easy for the learners to remember the topic or the lesson, make the learners have fun learning experience. In the content of the two analyses, there are more question and requirement needed. In subjective analysis, the language description can be structural, national, functional, discourse, discourse based, etc. The language points that should be covered: particular structures, functions, vocabulary areas, the proportion of work on each macro skills, example reading, skill integrated work, the needed macro skill, example reading, listening, writing, and speaking. The text types that should be included, example manuals, letters, dialogue, experimental, report, listening text, visual text, pictures, diagram, charts, cartoons, and etc. What subject matter area is required? What level of knowledge should be assumed? What topics are needed? What treatment should be the topics given? How should the content be organized throughout the course? How should the content be organized within the course unit? How is the content sequenced throughout the course? How should the content be sequenced within the unit? What theory of learning should the course be based on? What aspect of the learner's attitudes to learning English should the course take into account? What kind of exercise or tasks are needed, guided by the teacher, or free? What teaching learning techniques are to be used? What aids are available for use? What guidance for teaching the course will be needed? How flexible do the materials need to be? While in the objective analysis, the type of linguistic description used in the materials, example simple: I studied English yesterday, which is the past. I study English, present. Continuous: I was studying English, the past. I am studying English, present. The language points that the materials covered. Number five, the proportion of work and a skill integrated work. Example: discussion and response of the students that includes the idea. The macro skill that are covered, example reading, listening, writing, speaking. The kinds of text in the materials, example narrative recount, descriptive repose, explanation, analytical exposition, hor narratory exposition, procedure, discussion, review, anecdote, etc. 8. What is the subject matter area's assumed level of knowledge and type of topics in the materials? What treatment should are the topics given? How should a content be organized throughout the materials? How is the content organized within the units? How is the content sequenced throughout the book? What theory of learning are the materials are based on? What kinds of exercises or tasks are included in the materials? What aids do the materials require? What guidance do the materials? And lastly, in what ways are the materials flexible? The criteria that a subjective analysis and objective analysis can answer. Other criteria: what price range is necessary? The other type is what is the price? When and in what quantities should the materials be available? When and how readily can the materials be obtained? In materials evaluation, there is a checklist and step that we should follow. First step is answering the A question. First, to identify your requirements, meaning these are the question and requirements needed written in subjective analysis. Second step is analyzing the materials you have selected by answering the question in letter B. Third step is comparing the subjective and objective findings. How will you compare? By awarding the points, you can have the numbers that will present how it match and desire the features of the material. Example, 0 means does not match the desired feature. 1 partly matches the desired feature and 2 closely matches the desired features. Fourth step, look for the widest spread of desired features and concentration rather in the areas you consider most important. Last step, make your choice and your findings to prepare any document needed for defending your decision. Question number 2. Examine the grade 7 English curriculum and cite material used to facilitate mastery of a specific competency. The common materials teacher used to facilitate mastery of a specific competency from grade 7 to 12. Grade 7 to 12, list of materials: textbook and teaching methods, teacher's guide and learning materials. Grade 11 to 12, textbook and teaching methods, teacher's guide and learner's materials, reader's manuals, primal plus self-learning modules for core subject. Summarizing the English curriculum from grade 7 to 12 in four components. First, language learning process. For effective language acquisition and learning to take place, language teacher must be guided by the six language teaching principle. This principle explain the natural process of a language development. Spiral progression. Skill grammatical items, structure, and various types of text will be taught, revised, and revisited at increasing levels of difficulty and supplication. This will allow students to progress from the foundation level to higher levels of language use. Interaction language learning will be situated in the context of communication and oral written. Activities that simulate real life situations of varying language demands purposes, topics, and audiences. Integration. The areas of language learning, the receptive skill, the productive skills, and grammar and vocabulary will be taught in an integrated way. Use of relevant print and non-print resources. Provide multiple perspectives and minimal connection. Integration may come in different types of either implicitly or explicitly. Skills, content, team, topic, and values integration. Learner centeredness. Learners are the center of the teaching learning process. Teaching will be differentiated according to student needs, abilities, and interests. Effective pedagogies will be used to engage them and strengthen their language development. Contextualization. Learning tasks and activities will be designed for learners to acquire the language in authentic, meaningful context of use. Construction. Learning tasks and activities are designed for learners to reflect and respond to ideas and information Learners will be provided with sufficient scaffolding so that they will be able to reach their full cognitive, affective, and psychomotor potentials. Become independent learners who are good consumer and constructor, meaning. Two, effective language use. There are three major applications to the macro skill of language: understanding cultures, understanding language, process, and strategies. They are desired as the knowledge and skills areas which are essential to effective language use demonstrated through the language macro skills. Making meaning through language is the major instrument in communication and the heart of which exchange of meaning language learning should focus in guiding students make meaning through language for different purposes on a range of topics in the variety of audiences students must be able to adapt to various situations where communication demands great vary. 4. Holistic assessment is the process of using multiple sources to gather information and provide feedback to support and guide learning. Question number 3. List down specific competency from the grade 7 to 12 English curriculum and identify possible language learning materials to be used for these competencies. So, from grade 7 to 12, the main language competencies are writing, vocabulary content, and ideas, grammar and conventions, coherence and organization, speaking, pronunciation, speech, fluency, and diction. Read aloud fluency, vocabulary, grammar, appropriateness, coherence, and organization content, conversational and management, and strategic competence. Reading, comprehension, fluency, grammar, vocabulary, and content. In the listening, comprehension, strategic competence, grammar, vocabulary, content. Instructional materials used in foreign language competence, reading, textbook, projectors, slides, lectures, printed materials, etc. Speaking, videos, conversation, interviewing, giving explanation and question and answer, etc. Writing, printed materials, activity sheet, lectures, different writing activities, etc. Listening, chart, real objects, photograph, transparencies, film strip, television, videos, multimedia, cassette, CD-ROM, etc. And that will be all for today. Thank you.